And it happens to be all of the Muslim countries have abnormally low numbers. 0.11 in Saudi Arabia, 0.75, 0.5, 1.4. In so many words, what they're saying is that rape does not exist.
When I was very, very young, I was raped. In a culture that would kill the rapist, but also they would kill the rape victim. And I witnessed so many women being killed after being raped, that the father would prefer to kill his daughter to bury the shame with her.
When you see that there's so much information available out there, online, it's still baffling to see people making the wrong choices. And why do I say it's the wrong choices? Because had these Jews known this information that I'm about to tell you, certainly they're going to try to challenge it, but they're not going to be able to. And then it's going to make them question themselves. How the hell did I make this decision of joining such a horrible religion that's full of hatred, that literally contradicts itself left and right? Now remember, as masculine as you may be, you still have a mother. As masculine as you may be, you may have a sister, and certainly you may have a daughter. Which means that no matter what you say about women, you have to be very, very careful of how you treat them. In Judaism, women are glorified. Women are praised, especially when a person learns about what the sages say, both on the positive and the negative, how to understand the differences, especially all of the things that the anti-Semites like to misinterpret. Our women are what's going to bring Mashiach. Everyone knows that. Our women, our holy Jewish women, are what's brought us out of Egypt. Their merit is what brought us out of Egypt. Our Jewish women are the ones that did not sin with the golden calf, while the men did. Our women saved us. From our women, Mashiach comes. Everyone knows this. But yet, there is a confusion in the world today that Islam teaches to love women, teaches marital harmony. And they're even going to tell you that, look, we have a proof. What's the proof? You see this map, Rabotai? You see this map? This is a map of the world. Whether you're a flat earther or a round earther, it doesn't really make a difference here. So don't worry, you could understand this. There's all types of numbers on it. And on top, you see that this is the rape statistics by country. Now, if you'll notice, in the Western society, in America, in South America, North America, apparently there's a lot of rape. Horrible, terrible, life-changing, traumatizing, disgusting. Be'ezrat Hashem, all this will be over when Mashiach comes. But until then, in America they're saying that 27.31 rapes happen for every 100,000 people. It's an enormous amount. Anything more than one is too much. Anything more than zero is too much. But in America it's 27.31, one of the highest in the world. In places like in South America, different countries, 24, 23, 31.6. And there's one place in Africa, 92.93, 72. Terrible, horrible. Australia, 28. Horrible. Women are suffering because some men are simply animals. Apes, gorillas are better than them. But then you'll see something strange. What will you see? you'll actually see that there is a certain section where there's very low numbers. And it happens to be all of the Muslim countries have abnormally low numbers. 0.11 in Saudi Arabia, 0.75, 0.5, 1.4. In so many words, what they're saying is that rape does not exist. In fact, a recent study said that the 10 countries with the lowest rates of reported rape per 100,000 people include Oman, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Azerbaijan, Syria, Mozambique, Palestine, Tajikistan, Nigeria. Numbers like 0.9, 0.09 and 0.12 represent Saudi Arabia and Egypt. Iran doesn't even report. I mean, if you're wondering if the numbers are so low, why does even Saudi Arabia bother? Why does Egypt bother? Such harmony. Women are protected. Except if you talk to the women. Now, Baruch Hashem, we have students all over the world. In the four corners of the world, Baruch Hashem, we have people in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai, in Iran, in Indonesia, in Australia, in America, Nigeria. I have one place where, Baruch Hashem, I have several students, they tell me that just in their area there's over 100 synagogues. In Nigeria, a place I never even knew there was Jews. There's millions of people, Baruch Hashem. All types of people, all over the world. Now when you talk to those people, some of them tell you about their life stories, and some of them tell you horrible parts about their life stories, and some of the women tell you about how these horrible things happen to them. And it's always sad, it's always horrific, and you always have to be supportive in the best way that you can. But when you talk to the people, there's a significant difference between the people and the statistic. Based on a statistic, literally it looks like in America, if you're walking down the street to get a drink from a deli, there's a chance that somebody's gonna harm you. Over there, you can walk in the middle of midnight in the worst possible neighborhood and somebody's probably gonna buy you flowers. Or maybe put the flower petals under your feet. That's what it seems like based on the statistics. But when you talk to the people, it's quite the opposite. Now in the Torah, in our Parashat Ki Titzeh, it says that a woman that was raped is considered as if she was murdered. Meaning the Torah treats rape as murder. The rapist gets a death penalty. In the Western society laws, unfortunately, that doesn't work. First of all, they have to decide if the person's guilty based on whatever evidence, Sherlock Holmes is going to find on them. Oh, there was a hair here, and there was a tissue over there, and there was somebody that saw the back of this person from the elevator 3 days before, and all of this questionable evidence and gathering, and they're going to eventually decide how emotional the audience is and how emotional the situation is and how emotional the jury is, and then they're going to pin the crime on somebody that they decided is a criminal, even if there's not necessarily 100% confirmation that they actually did it. And many times, I'm sure all of you have heard, years come out and they realize that they made a mistake. The guy spends 10, 15 years in jail for absolutely no reason whatsoever. That's unfortunately Western society. That's the so-called civil law. Torah says that if there are two witnesses, that is a death penalty. There's no, did they find his hair? Did he blow his nose on the, on the way and then throw the tissue out? Did the shoe match the same footprint? Does the glove fit? None of that garbage. Two people saw it. They saw the guy's going to do the thing. They warned them. That's it. The end. Now, what about Islam?
And now maybe the daughter is pregnant. This was before abortion, etc. Okay, the daughter is pregnant. What is he going to do with the child? No, he prefers to kill the daughter. He does not want to go even to the degree that his grandchild is a result of a rape. From the 7th century in Islam or in Arabia, they killed infants. So when I say sacrificing children, this is not coincidental. It's rooted in that culture.
What about Islam, Rabotai? How is it that in Islam, that in essence, this is how the government of Iran, Saudi Arabia, this is how they run. They run based on the Quran over there. How do they keep virtually no rape, while at the same time, anyone that perhaps you were sleeping under, a rock or something for the last year, if you didn't know what happened in Israel on October 7th, and you didn't see the endless videos that the terrorists publicized themselves on Telegram and on different parts of the internet, and you didn't see the endless amount of news and the endless amount of testimony and the endless amount of the actual terrorists themselves admitting and describing exactly what they did, the level of rape that happened on October 7th was something that the world never even heard of, aside from the Holocaust.
البنت شعرها مش طويل كثير عادي يعني، ووجهها ملامحه رفيعة وهي رفيعة، وفي في رقبتها سنتان مجوهرة وزي هيك يعني. كانت لابسة عملت الحين الشيطان الغاني، وأخذتها هيك نيمتها وشدحت العين وعملت اللي عملته. نمت معها.
ما نمت هذا النوم. انت ما نمت معها، شو عملت؟
اغتصبتها. هي قاعدة تدفش في حالها، ولما بعد ما طولش الوضع يعني سمعت في سلاح برا. مع السلاح في 2 اجوا شابين. ما خدش دقيقتين او دقيقة ونص، ما لحقناش. في 2 شباب دخلوا من باب.
And even some of the things that happened there didn't happen in the Holocaust. The level of rape that happened over the last year to these poor hostages, Jews and non-Jews that are hostages in Hamas right now, by the Hamasniks right now, the same Hamasniks that the useful idiots are supporting. The men and the women are being raped on a regular basis. You're seeing, wait, statistics says angels. Reality shows perhaps angels of death. How could this be such a wide disparity? Palestine is showing the lowest reported rate per 100,000. How could it be that the lowest, all of a sudden one day they become the highest? How? This is a little fact that the world does not know. You see, the numbers are simply a lie. Not because I said it, but because anyone that's actually a religious Muslim and has any level of decency within them, they'll tell you this. Why? Because they'll tell you that in Islam there's a few things that perhaps the Western world and certainly the useful idiots do not know. First of all, in Islam there's nothing easier than divorce for a Muslim male. Meaning that he could just tell his wife, I divorce you, that ends the marriage, which opens up a can of worms for what's called temporary wives and temporary husbands. We'll get to that in a moment. But in addition to that, the Quran, in chapter 2, verse 282, the Quran says that the woman's testimony is worth half as much as that of a man. And in fact, the Quran in chapter 24, verse 13, is the reason of why there is no rapes being reported in Islam. Some people think, oh, it's because they're scared to report it. No, it has nothing to do with people being scared not being reported. Oh no, because if she reports that she was raped, no one's going to marry her. Perhaps there's some truth to that, but that's not the reason why the numbers are across the board in every country that has to do with Islam virtually zero. There's a religious reason for it. You see, since the legal teachers, the teachers of the law of Islam, have restricted the validity of a woman's testimony throughout all of their history for the last 1400 years or so, where the word of one Muslim is worth much more, one Muslim male is worth much more than a woman's, this is what ends up happening, where cases involving property or transactions dealing with property, such as sales, are significantly different if there's men involved versus if there's women. So much so that only men can testify. And in the cases of sexual misbehavior, the testimony of the woman, the victim, is so useless and so simply worthless in the eyes of the Quran that she cannot simply say what happened. In fact, even if her friend, or two of her friends, or four of her friends saw what happened, it's still useless. Why? According to the Islamic law, 4 males have to be eyewitnesses of the actual rape. They have to actually see the act itself. It's not enough to see what is gonna be. It's not enough to see. No. 4 men have to actually see the act. In so many words, only if one of the terrorists within Hamas that was part of the rape itself, he ends up ratting out on his guys, on his friends, and him and 4 other people, him and 3 other people, rat out on one guy. In Islam, you'll never see a case get to court. Why? Without 4 men, there is no testimony. Because the women, their words are worthless according to Islam. And the book called by a scholar in this particular subject, one of the world-renowned scholars, Robert Spencer, he writes as follows. These witnesses must be able to do more than simply testify. 4 male witnesses are required. They have to do much more than simply testify that an instance of fornication, adultery, or rape happened. They must have seen the act itself. This peculiar and destructive stipulation had its genesis in an incident in Muhammad's life, when his wife Aisha was accused of infidelity. The accusation particularly distressed Muhammad, since Aisha was his favorite wife. But in this case, as in many others, Muhammad said that Allah came to his aid, and he revealed Aisha's innocence and instituted the stipulation of 4 witnesses for sexual sins. Where the Quran says in chapter 24 verse 13, why did they not produce 4 witnesses? Since they produce not witnesses, they verily are liars in the sight of Allah. In so many words, the Aisha was the favorite wife of Muhammad. He also used to beat her up and do a lot of horrible things. And this is not something I'm making up. This is also here. There's several places where he slaps her around, and in fact it says, he struck me on the chest, which caused me pain, and then said, did you think that Allah and his apostle would deal unjustly with you? This is when Muhammad struck Aisha. So she ended up cheating on him. But he didn't want to get rid of her because he had many other wives and she was his favorite, so he decided to create a new law. What's the law? In order for any woman to say that she was, that there was any type of rape, in order for any type of sexual misconduct to be something that's subject to the law, there has to be an impossible situation where there's 4 eyewitnesses. Now, this in itself shows not only how little the value is in the eyes of the Quran and Muhammad, but also it explains a lot why the statistic is virtually 0, because to find 4 witnesses is impossible. 4 witnesses that actually saw an act. You literally have to have an entire conspiracy